AI minds, quantum leaps. Cut the noise, dive deep. Truth unlocked. Dr. Mike on the mic. Tech Unfiltered is on the clock. Now it's time for the show.
Imagine two services that can do a similar job. One charges $25 for a certain amount of work. The other charges 28 cents. You would at least want to understand the difference. That is the story today. The Chinese AI laboratory DeepSeek has released an updated version of its V4 Flash model built for coding and agent-style tasks. Axios reported on the release today, and the number getting attention is the price. DeepSeek charges 28 cents per million output tokens. Anthropic's premium Opus 4.8 model costs about $25 for the same quantity of output. Axios described that as roughly a 99% discount. That comparison is about list price per token. It does not mean the two models are equally good, equally safe, or equally reliable for every task, but the gap is large enough to tell us something important. Capable AI is becoming much cheaper. A token is a small unit of text that a model reads or produces. A million tokens is not a million finished jobs. It is simply a large amount of text. The cost that ultimately matters is the price of a successful, safe, completed task. So, what did DeepSeek release? The hosted application programming interface is in public beta, and this July 31st version replaces an earlier preview. DeepSeek says the architecture and size are unchanged, but the model received more training to improve its ability to use tools and complete longer tasks. DeepSeek also published the model weights on Hugging Face under the permissive MIT license. In practical terms, organizations with enough technical skill and hardware can download and run the model themselves. The official model card lists 304 billion parameters. This is not something most people will run on a laptop. The model can accept up to 1 million tokens of context with a maximum output of 384,000 tokens. DeepSeek's regular hosted price is 14 cents per million uncached input tokens, 28 cents per million output tokens, and a fraction of a cent for cached input. The company says it plans to charge twice the regular price during certain peak hours in Beijing, but it has not announced when that policy will begin. Prices can change, so these figures are a snapshot of the official pricing today. DeepSeek reports major gains over its own preview on several coding and agent tests. On Terminal Bench version 2.1, it reports a score of 82.7 compared with 85 for Anthropic's Opus 4.8. On the DeepSWE software engineering test, DeepSeek reports 54.4 compared with 58 for Opus. On a broader agent exam, the scores are nearly tied. Other tests show a larger gap, and two results in DeepSeek's table come from its own internal test sets. That matters. Company benchmarks are useful evidence, but they are not independent proof. The careful conclusion is that V4 Flash appears competitive on several important tasks, while still trailing the premium model on most of the tests DeepSeek chose to publish. Even so, close performance at roughly 1% of the output price changes the economics for many jobs. A business may not need the single best model for every summary, code edit, form, or routine research step. It may need a model that is good enough, fast enough, and inexpensive enough to run thousands of times. This is also bigger than one DeepSeek release. Axios describes a broader price war. OpenAI cut the price of its GPT 5.6 Luna model by about 80% only 3 weeks after launch. Google introduced several efficiency-focused Gemini Flash models. Meta priced its Muse Spark model aggressively. Other Chinese open-weight systems are adding pressure. Anthropic remains a premium price holdout, betting that customers will pay more for safety, precision, and reliability. One possible future looks a little like electricity. Most people do not choose the power plant behind each appliance. They buy a service that routes power reliably. AI software could work the same way. A simple request might go to a very cheap model. A sensitive request could stay on a private system. A difficult request might go to an expensive premium model. That is an inference, not a reported outcome. And the electricity analogy has limits. AI models are not interchangeable. They differ in accuracy, safety behavior, privacy, censorship, speed, tool use, language coverage, and legal terms. A cheap model can produce an expensive mistake. if it gives a confident wrong answer, exposes confidential information, or takes an unauthorized action. That is why price per token is only the starting point. Retries cost money, human review costs money, security controls cost money. Cleaning up a bad result can cost much more than generating it. For most people, these changes arrive indirectly through software. You may see them in a writing tool, a tax service, a customer support system, a tutoring platform, a scheduling app, or a workplace assistant. When the model underneath becomes dramatically cheaper, the software company can give customers more AI for the same subscription, lower the price, or keep the savings. The genuinely positive possibility is wider access. Small businesses, schools, nonprofits, and individuals can afford useful automation that was too expensive not long ago. AI can move from a premium feature to background infrastructure. There is also a labor question. This next point is inference, not a confirmed result of the release. Cheaper automation makes a larger number of routine knowledge tasks economical to automate. That may increase pressure on some entry-level work, but price does not decide the outcome by itself. Employers still choose whether to replace a task, support an employee, provide training, and require a human decision. Privacy deserves the same attention as price. Open weights can help an organization keep sensitive prompts on its own infrastructure, but running a model of this size requires specialized hardware and expertise. If an organization uses DeepSeek's hosted service instead, its information goes to that provider under its policies and terms. No one should send confidential code, customer records, health information, or proprietary documents without reviewing those rules and the organization's legal obligations. DeepSeek's Chinese origin also creates legitimate questions for governments and regulated industries about jurisdiction, data location, procurement, and supply chain policy. Origin alone does not prove misuse. It does mean that governance and data handling belong in the decision, alongside performance and cost. There is an energy consequence too. Cheaper inference does not automatically reduce electricity or water use. When prices fall, usage can grow faster than efficiency improves. Total resource consumption may rise even while the cost of each individual request falls. Nor does this price war automatically destroy the frontier laboratories. Lower prices can create much more demand. Companies can still charge for premium reliability, private data, integrated tools, enterprise controls, and agents that organizations trust with consequential work. Here's what to watch. See whether the software you use passes savings to customers or simply increases its margin. Notice whether an application tells you which model handled your request or silently switches providers. Compare privacy policies, not only benchmark charts. Look for independent testing of this July 31st release. And remember the difference between a cheap model and a cheap finished job. The bottom line is straightforward. DeepSeek released a capable coding and agent model with open weights, a 1 million token context window, and a regular hosted output price of 28 cents per million tokens. The AI price war is real, and model capability is becoming less expensive. The open questions are who captures the savings, how broadly automation spreads, and whether privacy, safety, and human judgment keep pace. I'm Dr. Mike. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.